Let me say welcome and hetty poo to all of the ECR listeners out there. How you doing? Hope you're doing fine and enjoying the weather and the time we can spend away from the plantation. You know. So I just like to say how it's a privilege for me to interact with you today. This is the Heru show, Sunday show. I had my show yesterday, which I like to make it a different type of show, more interactive, where you can call in. And let me just give you the numbers now, right? For those who have got a pen handy or phone or whatever, so you can call in. The numbers are 07826 double one, double five, and a 43. And I repeat, 07826 double one, double five, and 43. That will bring you straight into the studio. So, how's it going? How's your relationship? You know, I think personally right now, people without relationships are like a ship without a sail, I think. That's what I've learned through life. Relationships are good and a relationship can be bad. But bottom line, it's still a relationship. And how we learn our relationships from culture, then we do know the road that we've taken. So at the origin, the beginning, when you first come across this feeling of love or whatever you want to call it. And it says, in the time of spring, a young man's heart turns to love. That's what some poet said. I forgot his name. And is it true? Right now, spring is on its way, and all the men just thinking about love. Because it's not a crime. We shouldn't feel guilty about it. And I don't think we should feel that we shouldn't even discuss such a thing. But as far as we're concerned, we know of a thing called love. And whatever it is to people, it has different meanings. Relationships are sworn by it. That's how I thought it begins with love. You see someone, and I don't know what it is, you have a special feeling for that person. Still emotions, mind you. So you have an emotional attraction, physical attraction, of course, and the thing starts, right? The exchanging of phone numbers or whatever. And it blossoms into something good or something bad. But at the end of the day, how much of our relationships are shaped by culture? Is it involved in it in any way, shape, or form? Because I don't remember thinking about culture when I got in a relationship. So there's obviously some subconscious things going on in the background that I know nothing of. That gives me my idea. Well, I could say that a good example would be your parents. That's what your idea. Our idea is mainly built around how our parents were together, their relationships and stuff like that. Because we're all together in one place for years. We don't have to ask if mommy loves daddy or daddy loves mommy. We come to that conclusion by the fact that they're there every day and they, looking after you, feeding you, doing things. So, how much of that do we take into consideration when we fly the nest and embark upon our own relationships of love, so called? And is it a preconceived idea when we come to love? Do we have a preconceived idea? Do you remember the first relationship you've had, your first love? So they call it. How was that? It was just for me. I remember mine, those who know me know that I always refer to it when we having discussions on relationships and things. When did it first start for you? When did it first start for you? Do you remember the time? Do you remember the feeling that this person becomes the only person on earth to you? And that's the beginning of a relationship. Some of us start late in life. But what about when we were young at school? Your first girlfriend or your first boyfriend? You know, the tugging at your heart when you see that individual. How much of influences that we carry when we first embark upon our relationships. And, you know, I often think to myself, well, this is a natural act. But in a community, the relationships that you have with individuals, they already have a sort of a tag to them. Like, for instance, cheating. When that act happens, when someone cheats, is it the signal to end that relationship? If you've been going for a long time, very long time, if a person cheats, does it mean that you've got to end the relationship? I don't know. Well, of course, I have my own opinion, and that's cultural based as well. Because when you look at it, cheating is something that either you're conscious of or you're not. I've got something here I just want to read to you. If I can get it. Come here. Oh, come on. Right. Right. Let's talk about infidelity. Infidelity is a complex issue where, while relational, environmental, or personal factors may contribute to tension, the responsibility for cheating rests solely on the individual who makes the choice to break their commitment, while community, social dynamics, and the betrayed partner may be scrutinized. Experts, oh, where are you? Oh man, I got it. Oh, here we are. Experts and counselors largely agree that cheating is a conscious, personal decision. Well, I don't know, but when I read that, it made me think, really, are we really conscious when we cheat? And is cheating an aspect of our relationship? You know what I'm saying? So how would you balance this out now? Would you say men cheat more than women? Women cheat more than men? Is cheating inevitable? I know that there are people that are in relationships that have never cheated on their partner, but the partner may have cheated on them. Is that a signal to end maybe years and years of relationship? Do you just throw away the years because somebody's cheated? Is there no room for forgiveness? It's easy to say if you're at the end of it, but do we have room, or do we make room for forgiveness? I often wonder that myself, So the cheating thing, people say, well, why do people cheat? Can you say it's a thing that there's not enough love in the relationship, or what, a person ain't producing a particular thing in a relationship that causes the individual to want to cheat? how is cheating done? Is it done, it says consciously, but how does it start? You know, and we can say, can you say that man is more likely to cheat? You know, because of the stigma that they got with men. Men has plenty women, multiple women, while the women don't have multiple men. But so it's like it's thrown into the, into the man's garden that he's more likely to cheat more than the woman. Well, you know what? Sometimes I look back and think to myself, if there's an answer for that, it's got to be within the culture itself. It cannot just be down to man, individual man. Because if you was to strip man down to his nakedness, it's like this. It says, "Go forth and multiply." Right? I know it's not funny, but you got that. Go forth and if you strip him right down to his basics, without any social, institutional training, like they did in primitive days, they would man. What was the role of the man? What was his role? We know the role of the woman. Right back in prehistoric times, she was known as the bringer forth of the tribe. She would bring forth, they'd see her, and don't forget this very important point as well, that man is not born, or woman is not born fully loaded. We don't just born and knowing everything. We did, and like if a man looked on his privates, right, back then he wouldn't even know what that's for. You understand? This is how primitive people were. They weren't born fully loaded. So you have a society, everyone's learning at the same time. So, and then they would notice perhaps the woman's belly gets big after a sexual act. They'd have to work that out and think, what's that? What's that? What's that mean? You understand? So it took quite a long time, really, for us to have the social norms or the taboos that we created along the way. So we arrive at this point in time. We're fully conscious, fully loaded now, and embarking upon a relationship, but we don't really know who shapes that for us. When did it all begin? And so, if a man now in society, and I say this right, maybe I shouldn't even say it until later on down, but if you've got to take into consideration the women and the man and the ratio in that. Yeah, because how does a man cheat? Why does a man really need to cheat? Since it's going to be the man that probably be more likely to be the cheater than the woman. But I don't know about that. I haven't done a survey and I haven't got no statistics on that. But we can just deal with this right now. What's the norm within the community? A man has more than one woman. Is there a man that doesn't have more than one woman? I don't want to pry into people's private business here. No, but I'm just looking at it. How would you label this? What are you recognizing in going on? Have we accepted certain norms? And sometimes we don't even want to look at it. Because a man would cheat, I don't know, not because he can. In most cases, I don't think he cheats because he can. I think circumstances would be more of a thing, but and then of course it's two persons involved in a relationship. So obviously, what the individual thinks and what the other person thinks, that's down to their upbringing. And but I want to ask the all important question: is cheating a bell to be rung to end the relationship? Would you end the relationship, or do you need to have the room for forgiveness. You could forgive that person, and maybe many people have done that, and seen it's not really worth over an issue like infidelity to end this relationship that's been going on for maybe a long time. And people probably have forgiven their partners for that. But overall, if you were looking at a relationship, you would know if that individual has cheated on a relationship before. And say you went on for about 5-6 years, then suddenly he cheats or she cheats. Does that mean it's a time to end the relationship? And even so, if your partner has more than one partner, and I think again, it's cultural and social. Remember the what I read to you talk about environmental and social. That's a environmental thing, I do believe. Because if it's conscious, and that may be what we don't want to hear, then they've concluded that it is a conscious decision. But is there any other circumstances behind that would drive someone to cheat and didn't want to see as cheating? All right, what do you say about someone whose relationship is not fiery when it comes down to the bedroom? Yet they still love that person. But because their needs are not met, they don't want to end the relationship, but they'll go and get what they can't get somewhere else. So, and I suppose that's happening as well. Would you deem that as cheating? So the question is, what do you really deem cheating as? It has to have it's a many pointed thing, because if you cheat on someone and you say you love that person, then I don't know if you can say there have to be reasons, if you would be satisfied to even say there have to be reasons. If you're in a relationship for a long time and you find out your partner is in another relationship, and I don't know if that is the norm, so to speak. If we really want to speak about it, is it the norm? Or what do you say? Right. So when I talk about the causes of that being environmental, that means to say statistically there is more women to men. I asked a question one time to someone. I said, if you were chief or king and queen of a village and you had 20 women and you had 10 men, right? What would you suggest to the 10, and that 10 women got with the 10 men, leaving 10 women? What would you suggest to the 10 women that's left? Would you suggest they go hang themselves? No. Would you suggest that they leave the village immediately to solve that problem? Would you suggest that? No, maybe not. But if you wanted to keep the same amount of people in the village, it could work out good for you. Wouldn't you say, all right, that 10 women, go and join yourself onto the 10 men who already got the woman there? Would you suggest that? Wouldn't that be a more feasible thing to do? I don't know. In Western society, I think we're too emotional to ever even consider that. I think we're too territorial. I think that's how we're grown. And the women will ask the man, am I the only one? And maybe the man would want to tell the truth, but perhaps he's forced to say yes, because he probably knows that if he said no, even though that's the truth, and he said no, then she'd say, "What? You got someone else as well?" Then you go from there and escalate, and things like that. So the thing is, that's the truth. But do people hide the truth from people because they know that they're not going to accept it? But the fact that you've done something already, and then with all the reasonings that's behind that act, maybe you've been with the person 7 years, 8 years, and that one moment cost you the whole relationship. But should it be that way? Should we end it? Should we end relationships because of cheating? Or should we forgive the individual and carry on? I don't know how much you would trust the person after that, but you'd be really good to, and I know people have done this already. A man can cheat 10 times. You know what one woman said to me one time? Said, as long as I'm on the street and nobody now call out him name. She was quite happy to do that. And there's the other person as well who don't have a relationship but likes the individual that's in a relationship and would want to, don't mind the fact that he's got a woman. Because on Christmas, he's longing to see her, but on Christmas, he's got no choice but to be with his wife. And in any case, let the wife do all the dirty work, wash his clothes and all that. And I know that he wants to see me. He's longing to see me. And that's how some relationships work as well. So overall, you have to ask the question, is cheating enough to end a relationship, or should we really end it? Because when you want to find out if the man really loves you, you say, well, he wouldn't cheat if he loves me. I don't know if that's really the case, because what is love? We say love is an emotion, and it's something that we generate, but it's about our experience. Yeah, it's our experience. Now, a man could have a relationship and had 2, 3 different relationships. A woman can do the same. But it's a finding out, isn't it? When it's found out that it's like that, and you yourself say you love the person, wouldn't love supposed to cover a multitude of sins, right? It's not going to say a man's going to deliberately go out there and do that because he can. But love's supposed to cover a multitude of sins. If a man, it says a man cheats, not because he's just not satisfied sexually. I don't think that's the way it goes. The mere fact that there is, I don't know if it's true, but if there is a case where there's more women than men, anything could happen, to be honest. And you could probably judge a man and say, well, if he did really value the relationship, then he wouldn't have done that. So what has he done? What has he done? I'm not going on any side here. I'm just trying to be devil's advocate at the moment. We just look at it and say, okay, and it works both ways. If a woman cheats on a man, is there any room for forgiveness for her? Or should that be the real thing that we should be working towards in a relationship? If we could muster that, but because of the emotions, the heavy emotions that are involved in a relationship, it'd be hard to find someone who's got that ability. It's a shame, because then all them years that you may have spent with the individual, it wouldn't be thrown away. But how much do we value this kind of thinking? Is it part of our considerations? Is it the man that's at the foundation of this? Because he will more likely cheat than a woman. And all right, so you're in it, and you keep it from the other woman, right? And you try to, and then the thing that then what happens there is now you're kind of sharing. So it said woman said they ain't sharing nothing. We ain't sharing nothing. And I can understand that level. But when they say that, they are sharing. They don't even know it. So consciously now, if we wanted to solve that problem, then it would have been easy, How would you solve that problem? Infidelity, you call it. How do you solve that problem? As it is. If you know that is happening, then are you quite willing to allow it as part of the relationship? Would you be strong enough to say, okay, I know he's got that woman over there, but because there's an imbalance, and there's more women than men, they're going to, rather than make it be a negative, try to make it a positive and say, okay, and don't even say anything to the man. Or if you wanted to, of course you could. You could say, well, I know that's happening, blah, blah, blah. But the forgiveness will come in when he's going to stop doing that thing. That's where you're going to want the forgiveness. Do you love the man enough to even say, okay, I'll forgive you if you don't continue doing what you're doing? So relationships like that, it's happening anyway, regardless. It's happening anyway. Is it a cultural thing that you have more than one woman? You've got some cultures that don't have more than one woman; they have more than one wife. The difference between a woman and a wife, and they have several wives, and other cultures that they do pre-arranged marriage. They choose the husband for the person. I think the Western way of doing things is very hedonistic anyway, because it's happening and we don't even want to admit it. But if the woman finds out that the man has been cheating, will she be able to see it in herself and forgive him? Or should she just come down hard and chop it and finish it and end it, even though it's been years? These are the fundamental things that we have to really deal with in the culture. One second. You're live on ECR.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, hi.
Oh, you can hear me? I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. That relationships is a very good topic. And I'm going to intertwine this as well. And also, it's a good people's talk show.
Thank you.
Because when you open this, relationship doesn't just have with husband and wife. Now, it starts from husband and wife. What happens in now, it's spread to our Turkish community. And it is the political aspect of this as well. And what happens is now, you would know that in places like Iraq, Turkey, Syria, all these Middle Eastern countries, they will never, ever cheat on the man, wouldn't cheat on the woman. It was commented on the lady, my bad. and things. But what happened was, everyone was saying, Iraq, you bring, from their wives, they won't cheat on there. But what has happened is now, after, when they went into Iraq, when the other people like Israel and America gone into Libya, and first of all, dominate and control, destroy each culture, which they done. And from that war, you see now, after a few things, like in this country, when they come to over 15 or 16 and they kick them out. Not even for Christmas, the parents don't see each other. Not even for Christmas, their relationship, and you got a husband and a wife. Then if the husband and wife, they're so certain, we're gonna marry, like in this country, they marry, and then what happens? They don't get on with each other. And then when they make children, after children, obviously the person's got to work, and the other person's got to work. The children, are on their own.
So Bertrand, one sec. So you're trying to say that it's a cultural thing then, yeah? That when we're in this culture, it's not a cultural thing. Western culture.
It's not a cultural thing, but what I'm trying to say to you is that, like in this country, that this is happening mostly, the world, when they went to war in all these countries and covert thing, they want to do this, like in their country, like in America, to have all the other countries to lose culture, to lose their culture. Do you understand what I'm saying? One of them is the reserves of a country, one. Secondly, is because they want the country to be like them, to just have a relationship, go out with another person, go out with another person, go out with another person, and then, not just there, for example. And when these people have children, it happens most in this country, most of them are polygamous in this country. They have children, and then what happens? Why shall I have children? And then they can't get on with each other because the wife has to work, the man has to think. It's not like before, where it was better, where the lady has to look after the child, would look after the child and cook and clean and everything, and the man would go out to work to provide bread. No, it's not like that anymore.
Yeah, but
things have changed.
Bertrand, so polygamy is the answer to infidelity then? Polygamy, to be polygamous, I reckon this is more of a polygamous society anyway. The things that they...
Yeah, I know that. I know, but what I'm saying is that they go out with another person. What I'm trying to find by polygamy is that I've been working and working and working and working and working, looking all around this street, this country's pop culture. But what my worry and what my anger is, that they always like to spread this kind of things, and not just that. When they have children, and they have to go out to work and thing, they say, why did I have children in the first place? And then what happens to those children, like you saw what happened in Turkey recently with Şanlıurfa and thingy, shooting. And what series are they watching? They don't know. The parents don't know. Before, in them places like Şanlıurfa and Kahramanmaraş, there wasn't no cheating. There would be the lady would look after the children and thing, or, and the man would work in good business place to provide. But now, what has happened is, both said, I've got to go to work. and both, sometimes what happens is the husband cheats on another person. The other person, Kahramanmaraş is a cultural place, yeah? And then what happens is the other person cheats on another person, yeah? So the
Right,
man
right.
cheats on, yeah. So this
Okay.
is why these violence has happened. The school shooting in Louisiana is because the man and the thing, and when you get a relationship that cheats, and goes out, and then there are the children, and then they breed more children, and you can't control what they're watching
All
because
right,
you don't have
Bertrand.
the time.
Okay. We'll see what other people say. Yeah. Thank you for your
You don't have the time, and then this is what happens. You
Yeah.
don't. You can't have the time to say to the children, "No, you can't watch this series. You've got to go to bed." 7 plus. It is so deep now that it's become violent.
Okay.
Yeah, and now everyone's blaming it on the series. Yeah, everybody. So I'm going to text message you,
Okay.
and then one day, when another people's talk show, and I hope you'll be here next week, because then we can carry on. Or if it's a 3 hour talk show that you're having, then I could carry on to this topic because it really shocked the whole nation. Still talking about it right now.
Yeah.
It's spread to here as well. Everybody's talking. The BBC's talking about it. The thing is talking about it. Everyone. Why did this violence happen?
Okay.
Why did it happen? All
All
right.
right, Bertrand. Enough respect. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Respect. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So you talk about it. You research what has happened, or I can tell you. I'll phone up later on. If no
All right
one's
then.
phoning up, then I'll talk about this.
Enough
Yeah.
respect. Thank you.
But I love the People's Talk Show. I
Thank you.
love it, and thank you so
Respect.
much. And I'm going to put this up on YouTube as well.
Okay.
And for the the text written for over 15, like I did, and I've also created the length of the picture to
All
fit
right.
the whole thing because it was
Enough
small.
respect,
All right,
Bertrand.
I'll
Thank
do
you
that.
very much. Respect all the time. Bless
I
you.
might phone back.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Respect. All
Peace.
right.
I'm out. Gone.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Could be cultural, but I think personally, if we're in a relationship with someone, there should be some kind of room for forgiveness. I don't know. Maybe it's easy for me to say. If shoe was on the other foot, would I be able to forgive a partner for their infidelity? But what is the alternative? That you end that relationship when perhaps you never needed to. That's what I'm looking at. So if a woman cheats, a man cheats, it's a conscious thing. They don't do it subconsciously. And for whatever reasons, the man are bringing the money home, and they get fed up of each other because things ain't going where it should do, and they think, well, if I was in another relationship, it would be better. But by thinking like that, there is no room for forgiveness. And if forgiveness is a thing that will bring the continuation, because it must be good if you're involved in it. And how do we get involved in it? Every day we see things that we have to learn how to grow. And if you're going to have a successful relationship, if there's such a thing, of course there's going to be problems within a relationship. So whatever we see is what we're going to be learning as we go along in everyday life. So a man will cheat, a woman will cheat, but maybe, as I feel today, that they're always saying it's the man that's going to be cheating. And it's more likely because it's the shortage of men. To me, that's the real reason, if you want to put the emotions aside. So what are you going to do? If a woman comes up to you and she's quite willing, even though you have a partner, to have a relationship with you, are you really going to turn that down? Of course you should. The thing, you should turn it down because you're already in one. But is it this? Have you got the wherewithal? I'm sure when we were younger, it was it a natural thing to even have more than one girlfriend? I suppose we kind of grow in that kind of way. shaped in our thinking. Yeah, and maybe we even used to go after that figure. It's how much girls you can have in one night. I don't know. It could be really a thing that's intertwined in the in society, how we look at women and men. What's the role of the man? Has the man lost his role in life? The breadwinner? Because women earn more than men, so that's out the window. He used to be the breadwinner. And one of the things I used to notice, say if you were on the dole, that it's not really, it's the woman that seemed to be able to give the children money. It's always the mother that seems able to produce or give the child money. The man, if he's unemployed, he's not likely to be able to do that. If they're not living together, and then for him to give his child money, of course he has to, but he's probably struggling with that because of his earnings. Whereas the women, they earn more, and plus they've got the support, child support and all that. And so the child probably thinks that mum is always giving me money, but the father isn't. And it goes without saying, if there is a need to cheat, what do you do about that? Do you accept it? And what will be the outcome? People have been having extra relationships for years, and when they find out, it's the curtains. So obviously, if he loves the other person as much as he loves that person, he's going to be torn between the two. But if he was not meeting women every day, and as I said, the shortage is apparent because if you, I've checked it out already, and there's more women to men. So what are the women to do? What are they to do? If they haven't got a man, and they're going to see a man out there, and the man's already going to be attached to a woman, but they still go ahead. So would you blame the man for that? So the blame is on the person because they shouldn't do that. We all know that. But when it happens, as it is happening, where do you place the blame? Wholly and solely on the cheating party? Or could it be that reasons are there? That if you look at it, it's a societal thing. It's not just a willingness to cheat. I don't think so, because it's born by circumstances. But plenty of people won't accept that. They won't say, nah, you shouldn't cheat at all. But can you really call it cheating? I don't know. If two parties agree that they can have a relationship outside their relationship, well, what can you say? I know that people do that. But does it fulfill needs? Does it take care of the family way? If you have children in a relationship, then it makes matters worse. And what you can tell that child? The child will say, well, my mum doesn't live with my dad this and that, got more children, and they go on, and they sort of take umbrage to that. But when they grow up themselves, they see another thing. They have to handle that. And you have to know if you have the capabilities to resist temptations. But it doesn't always work. So what are we left with? How do we view this thing? It's all part and parcel of humanity. You can see it that way, or you can just decide to yourself that it should never happen. Yeah, can we proportion blame? Or do we find an answer, solution? What is the solution? If it's not, say, on the agenda in our mind, it's not the first thing in our mind, then you may not feel you need a solution.
Creator, Ptah, Oludumare, Odumankoma, Enyame, Ama, Neter, all traditional African names for the one God. Abosun, Orisha, Loa, Neteru, aspects of the divine.
Yeah, of course it's culture that drives us. If we never knew, we know now. Our culture, see our parents, and they're an example to us. And I always say it's best to stay together. But this society always says you cannot stay together for the children's sake. And many a time, if we even have the children as a basis to stay together, we may even grow to love each other. That's the way I see it. But mainly because society is a promiscuous society, and we've grown in this society, our views of relationship, marriage, is taken on a kind of Western view. A Western view. And having the Western view of life, it's never the correct way. It can never be. Because, first of all, the woman in a relationship loses her name. And in African countries, they don't always lose their name. They have their name as well. So the woman becomes the man's property. Is that kind of mindset when we see our young folks dealing with relationships in the way they do? Because at the end of the day, the man is seen to be the head of the house. And it's not always true. The head of the house, in reality, is the woman. Because she's the one there. She'll be she'll be making the home. The man, he's supposed to bring in the goods. But I don't think relationships are like that today. In my estimation, a relationship is basically built on emotions and looks and feelings. It's not really built on knowledge or a cultured way of living. That's why we have what we got today. And I think that in the long run, if that's not really solved, if we don't solve that cultural thing, it's going to be problematic as long as we know. And I'm telling you that the importance of a steady relationship goes without saying. The emotions that runs in the man and in the woman has to be cultivated. So are we cultivated enough when it comes down to having a relationship and being able to have that space for forgiveness? I told a friend of mine one time, you can't have so much yard, you can't guard so much yard. But because he thought, well, the women didn't mind. And is that a result of the imbalance in the society? Where are they going to go? You can't suggest that they love each other, turn on each other. No, it wouldn't be right to say that. But what is the problem in attaching yourself to another man? And both people, even if the other partner don't, the other woman don't know about it, but would that be a wrong thing to have more than one relationship, and the other party agreeing, is that a way forward in a community where there is more women than men? Would that be the answer? Or do we go on pretending that it's not happening and just go and carry on looking the other way? When it does affect us, it affects the whole person, and it brings heartaches and pains and all that. But maybe if we go down that road and say, okay, fair enough, it's a cultural thing, plus it's a social thing, and put it to one side. I know that this day and age, you'll never get women to agree on that. Because as far as they're concerned, a man's having his cake and eating. I don't really think so. So we can go on pretending. What do you think? Would you be in a relationship where you know that the person that you're with, your partner, is having an affair? Would you still be in that relationship? Would you have any reasons to be? Say you were there for more than 10 years. Wouldn't the fact that you've been around for so long, make it more easy for you to accept? Women say, I'm not going to share, but they're actually sharing today. Do we make it conscious? Is that something that we can do? Or do we taboo it like we've always been tabooing it? So what do you say? I thought to myself that if we did go down that road, I know it's going to be looking like a man is having his cake and eating it, but he's not really having it. You see? Because relationships are born on what? Faith, love, emotions, all of these things. We don't even really know what half of this thing is. When you say you love somebody, you don't even really know if you love that person. But what is love but an emotion? And if we were to clean up our act a bit, if we were trying to understand the relationships that are, I wouldn't say open. It's not even an open relationship. It's the place where we can forgive that person if they are caught in an extra relationship. Would you really see yourself doing that? Around about 10 years or 20 years ago, when life was more simpler, it's more complicated now. We would see ourselves as making relationships work by being with each other, loving each other, doing all the things that we know that people do. But when it comes down to holding onto a relationship, regardless of anything else, whether it's going to be infidelity to a degree, infidelity means that you consciously knew what you were doing at the time. But are you wrong? Is there a wrong and right when it comes down to it? How much can you blame the individual? I know it's men that always get blamed still. But when it comes down to trying to say you want to confess to your woman, most time the reason why men don't really confess because they don't want to really lose that woman, so they're not going to be confessing anytime soon. And so when the woman tries her best to get confession out of the man is always saying, "No, I'm not in one." Now, why would he say that? It's because he doesn't want to lose the woman, so she ain't going to get no straight answer out from him. Is that something that you would still put up with, I suppose. Maybe not. Can you see yourself knowing that your partner is out there? And what is it that prevents you from really even forgiving him? You know, what has he done really? When you think about it, what has the other person done when he's committed infidelity? It's mainly because he's slept with a person. That's really what it is. And it looks like that's the first and foremost thing in a relationship. As long as that person doesn't sleep with anyone else, you're fine. But if that does happen, then everything's over. Should it be the case? I don't think you should be so drastic, really. Because of the years you spent together. So, when we come down to Western side of thinking, the man assumes the authority in the relationship anyway, because it's a male chauvinistic ideology as far as I'm concerned. But if it comes down to the fact that, it's a conscious thing, is it a good thing? Does it make the relationship any worse? Because consciously the individual will go out and commit infidelity. How many men right now can say they've never ever done committed infidelity with their partner? Not many, but you're expected to. You're expected to, because it's never going to be right in the eyes of the woman, I suppose. So I think we lost out there. It's never going to be right. But to have a relationship where it's conscious, it's going to be an uphill struggle as far as it goes. Now, I know that plenty of time I've heard the talk that if you have more than one woman, you're breaking some sort of trust. But if the person still doesn't know, would you really feel that it's time to end it? Is there a way out that we don't really want to know about? We just carry on as normal? But in the real world, when the world began, totemism was a real thing. It was the woman that carried the totem. She was the bringer forth of the tribe. So that's why they put all the secrets in the woman, because as far as it goes, we never had no social norms then. Everybody was with everybody else. That's how life began. And as we grew older in life and more experience in life, we began to put social norms and taboos on certain things. But in a society, a modern day society, infidelity seems to be the norm. Without saying, it's definitely the norm. And because of that ideology that we have brought up to believe, we make the same mistakes over and over again. It's about love. I don't know. What is love? But if you are trying to keep a relationship on the surface, on the level, and every day you go out there, you meet people, and you find that you succumb to certain things, that's because it's human, isn't it? So, where would you draw the line? To keep a relationship, it's going to have to be straight. But you can't, because there's so many distracting things out there that will distract you. But the understanding that we have is a very old understanding. It's been around for the longest of time. But you have some like religions that you are permitted to have more than one wife, and they live in that society, and the society is going just as well as this one. But it's because we don't really see it in the way that maybe different cultures see it. We have to stick with what we got. So, thing is to find the middle road. I think personally, to find the middle road where you can communicate with the partner and say, well, you can even confess if you want to. But whether you do or not, will it make a big difference? Because I really do believe that it is to do with the culture. Culture has its ways and means of developing people. And right now, we're not even in the right culture. And we are definitely westernized in our thinking. We'll go on the same way. It's only when we decide to address this matter that we can really do what we need to do as individuals. Relationship comes and go. And if we really viewed it in the way that we should, it wouldn't be a problem. But today is problematic. And now we've arrived at the time when we're going to carry on with our eyes shut, pretend it doesn't happen, or face it. One out of the two. If you're in a relationship with someone and you know to yourself that you feel that you're doing wrong, right? And you feel you have to turn things around and say to her, look, I'm sorry, but I've had a relationship with someone, blah, blah. And that person will decide whether if they want to continue or they want to end it. And that's what I think plenty of us are scared of doing. We really want to say to the person that's happening, but you just don't want to lose that person. That person will turn around and say, well, I'm going anyway. If they find out, they will say, well, I'm going. Then you know that you're not even going to be happy with the other person. It's kind of crazy. It's mad. But this is what it is. What will you do if your partner turns around to you and tells you, I had a relationship? Would you forgive her? Or would you end it straight away? So, think about it. Yeah, so we are told that somewhere in America, every 30 seconds, a woman is battered. The sad truth is that most of the men who perpetrate these acts sincerely believe that they love these women and that their violence is no way contradicts this fact. They have been trained by the culture to equate their feelings of attachment to the woman as love. Trained by the culture. Most of us are trained to have relationships in the way we have them today. And love is the key. But love only serves you if you understand what love is. Love can only be if you have that attitude of forgiveness to the individual. Can you imagine? If you're trained that you are the man and the head of the house and the woman is underneath you, then you will live your life like that. As far as you're concerned, the woman is the helpmeet. And sometimes even the gospel contributes to this as well. They always pass the sin on the woman. It was the woman that brought sin into the world. You know what I'm saying? So, and Adam blamed the woman for the sin. So we kind of have that kind of attitude in the culture, and I think women are fighting back today because now they can have equal rights in terms of earning and stuff like that. So it is a cultural thing. You may think that you're just born into a culture, but you're taking on the attributes psychologically of the culture when it comes down to looking at us as individuals. We never really did that. As far as we're concerned, the woman is the first. I've said it so many times. The first of all people was a woman. And at the end of the day, if we ain't been trained to think the way we are, that's why they turn around and blame the generations that we have now for the ill treatment of women. I can see where that comes in because as a man, you've been taught that you're the head. So psychologically, as far as you're concerned, you're the head. And that's why some of the times we do the things we do. Women are seen as been taken from our rib. Now, back in the Bible, it tells you right there, a woman is taken from Adam's rib. And I think that contributed to the disrespect of women because they are seen not as equals, but as something that needs to be conquered. And the Caucasoid conquered not only himself first, he conquered the women and then the family to be, so that he has that authority over them. Now, could that be also the reason why we think the way we do? Because as far as culture is concerned, the women is underneath the man. If the head of every man is God and the head of the woman is a man, we are taking on the same attributes when we have our relationships with women. And this could contribute to some of the real antagonizing things that happen in a relationship. Man is, dominating the women. And that leads to that kind of an imbalance in our thinking. So it is definitely cultural. The culture that teaches you these things is the culture that's going to produce these things within us. Our relationships that we have is tainted with it. It's tainted with Europeanism and we don't even know it. It's tainted, definitely as a fact that it's tainted with the idea that man is the head of the house. And he is the breadwinner and he brings in all of this and all of that and he has the run of the house. But in our culture, that never was the case. Because the women were the actual makers of the home. They made the home. And we're not looking at things like that. Our relationships are not bound on things where the woman has a say. Now the woman is fighting back today, and she's asserting herself in a lot of things, which is good. But we've never had that problem. We come and we take on European problems and European attitudes and wonder why things are the way they are. The attitude that we have towards ourselves is very important, because if you don't know yourself, you see, you know yourself, and then you know what you're capable of. You know that the inner man is the real essence of our lives. That we share in all of these things, and if it's not connected, if it's disconnected, like the way it is, then we cannot have a meaningful relationship anymore. I don't think we ever do. From within the 60s, I think it's much more easier, and up to this time now, I don't even know if the man has a role in life anymore. I think the role of the man has been removed, and I think that's done deliberately, because they made him redundant by not being able to feed his family with the wages that he has to, what he gets out there. It's like he could never feed anyone on that wages, but it's done, and we've been moving that way for a very long time. So it allows us to have that negativity of other relationships, because it's about how much do you really feel that you understand? How much do we really understand about life? We don't really understand much about it. So having a relationship that's bordering on infidelity, it means little to us, really. And we have to confess that because of ignorance, that's basically why we have the conditions that we have when it comes down to us creating society. Society has been created by people that feel that they are deliberately trying to muddy the waters, and it makes us vulnerable. So how do we get strength? The strength comes from knowledge, knowing yourself. Remember that. If we know ourselves, if we know how we are made up, we know that we are made up from many, many different particles, which is the flesh. This is the kind of knowledge that we're supposed to be portraying in our societies. But it hasn't happened. And that's because the movers and shakers of society allow certain kind of depravity within our circle. We haven't got the wherewithal or the spirituality to neutralize any of these influences in our lives. We influence ourselves in a way that it suits our feelings. Everything's built upon feelings, nothing on truth. And if two people get into a relationship, the first thing they need to know about themselves is where they're taking it to. Well, where is it going? We don't think about those things. We get involved on many different levels, maybe at the clubs, at the pubs, on the street, and that's how we get involved. And then we realize then that it's more than that. It's moving towards the ability to discern. We don't get those things overnight. Those things come by learning, by teaching. You see. So how can people associate love with violence? and it's done. And I'll tell you the truth as well. Back in the day, I've even heard when some of the women used to say, if a man doesn't beat you, he doesn't love you. That was said many, 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 many times in our circle where we used to be as children and we grew up. And we used to grow up saying, well, if a woman tells you, if you don't beat me, you don't love me. And those things are just negativity. This is what we've got to get rid of and understanding that who we really are when it comes to these things. Society's moved away from bringing out the individual, the faculties that are in the person that needs to be awakened. As long as there's no awakening of those faculties, those high faculties, then we have to be dealing with the animal. And it's the animal in us, the lower faculties in us, that allows us to manifest these attitudes and feelings that are wrong. Knowing who you are makes us more able to have the wherewithal to balance up the needs of a society. See, things weren't done like on awakening some high faculty, but it's done within the relationships between people, how we treat people. And this is a fact. How we treat people is how people are going to treat you, and it's a natural ability to do that. Yeah, you're live.
Yeah. We came on to a very good subject as well. Like what seemed to happen is, which I don't like, is also some of the aspects that people are watching. You see wife beating, woman beating, children beating. There are these things as well. Yeah. And there was this man, yeah, in the relationship, beating up his wife, beating up his kids. You know what he said? Because I saw this from a film. That's why I done it. And they put him in jail. And this was could be the other way around.
Hey, Bertrand.
Either way.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to thank you for your contribution again. Yeah, we just want to push on. We're near the end of the show. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I wish there was more talk show. This morning I heard about a talk about the knives and the thing the management was doing, and I hopefully there'll be more talk show because you're really good, Heru, and long live yourself. Yeah,
respect. Thank you.
Hopefully for the next week it'll be an open people's talk show, so I can come on with what I need to talk about because it's very important. It's still being talked about.
All right.
I've just opened the news channel. It's all talked about all over the world.
All right. Thank you very much.
Right? I'll leave it there.
Yeah, respect all the time. Yeah. So, by the way of summary, we must take note of the fact that love is an expression of the fourth division of the spirit, the ab, which expresses itself through the higher functions of the cerebral cortex, where a people have not brought forth a system of spiritual culture. There you have it. As long as we haven't brought forth the spiritual culture, we know love is the fourth division of the ab. So if we were to train ourselves to realize that these things are not just fleshly things, these things are not just things of emotions. Love is an expression of a faculty. But we ain't going to know that because it's not something that we attach ourselves to. So we go on guessing and, guessing our way through life. So it's no longer accepted that we should guess our way through life. And the problems that we face, which every society faces problems, we're not the only one, but we face problems like, everyone else. It's just how we're going to handle it. So having an expression, realizing that the expression that we have when we say we love is going to come from the ab division of the spirit, which is the fourth sphere of the tree of life. Expressions of love, it's not just because, I like the way you walk or I like the way you talk. And it's built on something like that, then it's always going to have mega problems. But if it's built on the expression of self, the expression of yourself to the individual who will then reciprocate that back to you, then you'll have all the ingredients of a successful relationship. As it stands, in a westernized relationship where everything's built around the lower self, the love, I love you, and such like that, and all of the things that go along with that, it will never come to much. It won't take us through the lower self. So there's something to be had here. That including when we instruct our young folks as well about the relationships and how it go. I mean, we have plenty of single parents right now and single parent relationships that are looking after children still. One parent, there's plenty now than there were maybe 10, 20 years ago because of the breaking up of relationships. And this is the whole thing. We're shipwrecked in the night. Nothing to overstand, nothing to take us to a level where we all understand how things should be. Thing is, if we allow the emotions to take over, which we always do, the emotions will guide us into the wrong way of feeling and building a relationship with each other. Love is the thing that's in somebody's imagination, because that's not going to steer the ship really. We're expecting apples from orange trees when we do things like that. The life force that's in us is intelligent. And if we allow the life force to come to the fore and guide our attitudes, and this is the lack of guidance from the higher faculties, why our relationships are shipwrecked. The higher faculties remain unawakened, unopened, and this is not going to be the subject of a society that knows nothing about that. You'd have to be in a society that's been trained, and there are societies that you can join that actually have this kind of training when it comes down to spiritual relationships and the fact that how you're going to handle the things that come to us through different windows all the time. Things that come to us through different windows allows us to have a panoramic view of life and the way forward. So when we think of the balance, which is ma'at, the balance of things, there is a need to be aware of situations and things and emotions that come up from the lower self. But building the ability to ignore, I keep saying this for the longest of time, is things that we have to train ourselves to do if we want a meaningful relationship. If it means us returning to the beginning, this is what we're going to have to do, to return our thoughts and our emotions to the beginning, where we are who we really are, which is consciousness and will and energy and matter. Consciousness is who you are, and willing is what you do. If the emotion tells us one thing, and we're not able to ignore the emotion, then obviously we're going to follow the emotions. Plenty of times, the emotion is to do the drastic thing, and maybe to end the relationship where it doesn't even need to be ended. You see what I'm saying? How much of us are prepared to really be able to have that spirit of forgiveness if there is infidelity in a relationship? Maybe you say to yourself, well, no, why should there be? The person should know instinctively what to do. But that always never is the answer, because all it does is push you to another relationship, and then that's not unsolved, and it goes on and on and on. If you need to resolve it, if you need to have that spirit of forgiveness, will you be able to have it? This is the thing. If in your journeys you know that things are what they are because of the lack of culture, then you'll have much more inside of you, more spiritual power to see the thing through to the end. Life is not something you can just get up and understand straight away. In a relationship where there's understanding, it's better you have understanding rather than emotional context. And right now, in this big 21st century, I don't see anything but emotionalism that runs our culture at the moment. So time has come now for us to retake back the ideologies of the ancestors that was given to us from time immemorial, but we have forgotten. We have forgotten it. And it needs a return. We have to put back the body together, piece by piece. As it was said, 14 pieces of Usa were scattered all over the earth. So therefore, we have to bring back the body, rebuild, remember. Remember is remembering and putting back the body of knowledge that was once ours, that made us a great people. We're not living how we should be living right now. We were great then. We've had our day in the sun. And every dog has his day in the sun. So our time was right when we were ruling. We're not ruling anymore. Right? So it's the lower self that rules the society. So we're always going to have problems. We're always going to have infidelity. It's just how you're going to handle it. How you're going to handle infidelity. And cheat, as you call it. I don't know if you understand when we talk about the ability to ignore. The ability to ignore is the thing that we have to be trained into, because we can ignore the emotions to become infidelity. We can ignore the emotions to do the negative things. But if you haven't had the wherewithal, it's never a part of your psyche, didn't even know that it exists, the ability to ignore is very important. They call it menab in the Medunetta, menab. Once you can develop that, you then will have the spiritual power to ignore the lower self. That's how you're going to do it. How are you not going to be or become that way? How are you not going to commit infidelity? It's the ability to ignore. So it's worth thinking about. It's worth even practicing. You practice the ability to ignore your thoughts and emotions, and that's done through meditation. You spend more time in that. Will you be able to forgive your partner? I don't think you will, because you haven't really studied it. I know people have done that, but on a whole, on a majority in society, do not know themselves. And this is where we have to put back the body of Usar. Rebuild that psyche, that collective consciousness that used to be running throughout our communities, where we don't rely totally on the emotions and the feelings, but knowledge is something that will bring emotions to their part where they should be. We need emotions, of course we do. But when it runs high in us, we are not able to manifest the real feelings when it comes down to people. How we love ourselves is very important. How we understand the term is very important. Do we really understand the term? I remember when I was in my first relationship, I was like, wow, I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Really, I was only about 19. And I was in the church, and they kind of forced me, really, in that way, because they tell you that once you're in church, you cannot have a relationship without being married, and so forth. And whether that partner was okay for you, they didn't know that. But they talk about lusting and so forth. It's better to marry than to burn. And so they would kind of force you into a relationship because of that fact. It's better to marry than to burn. But you're not really being taught what a relationship is. You never had any schools on that. So you had to go blindly into it as a young man. And I had to go blindly into it. And then, obviously, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Man, know thyself. Know who you are. Know what you're capable of doing. I don't mean even in the flesh. The life force that runs inside of you is intelligent. It knows how to guide your bodily functions. And it knows how to guide the universe or the multiverse. It knows how to run in your life, run in our relationships. It'd be quite easy for the divine intelligence to do. I always say, when you eat your food, you do not worry about how your food's digested. That's done for you automatically. So it's the same life force that you want to bring to the forefront and guiding us in relationships. And that's what's lacking. That's what's missing. The guide. You never had no guide. But other cultures, they have training. They train their children how to deal with relationships. But here in the West, it's never done. Hence why we've got so much broken marriages and a whole heap of other stuff, because it's never been a topic to be trained within our communities. There's no classes that you can go to. There's no fraternity that you can belong to. But only the religious ones, you know. We don't really want to go into religion in order for us to know how to handle society and things like that. It's about knowledge. Gain knowledge. Go and seek knowledge. Knowledge is the thing. Knowledge is part of the glue that holds us together. Knowledge is there. We had a whole heap of knowledges on how to survive and how to live in a community. And we we're supposed to transpose them to our children. But obviously, if we're taken up with a whole heap of other stuff, material wealth and things, we're never going to have the time to do that. And it's about money, wealth, materialistic things. This is the kind of undertow that society is pushing at us in this late stage of time. We need to know ourselves, our cultural selves, and how to deal with all of these emotions that bombard us daily. It's a lack of understanding. It's a lack of knowing. If we see ourselves as just humans and dealing with human society, we're way under par. We have to see ourselves as divine beings, having an earthly experience. And the experience is overriding us right now. We forgot ourselves. We forget who we really are. So we have to understand that by knowing and awakening certain faculties in us, we will have the understanding. We will have a much more meaningful community. At the moment, I don't know. I don't think we even know where we are in the terms of community. At the moment, we don't know whether we are European cultured minded or we are black cultured minded. It's difficult to say. Difficult to say. And what will be the future of this generation, of this black 21st century generation people? That's gonna have to be lived out. We don't know if we're gonna remain with the culture, or we're gonna have a different ideology, a different mindset. We've already got that kind of a Western mindset when it comes down to certain things that could solve certain problems. We don't want to solve it. As I said before, we don't want to solve the issue of infidelity because it remains an emotional subject by having, the thing that needed to have. We don't want to do it because it's too emotional. So we go and we carry on the same way. Pretending, hiding, waiting. You see what I'm saying? When we could come up front and say and deal with the thing as a collective. It's a bitter pill to swallow, I know. But what's demanded of us to have that forgiveness, If it's the cheating that's really the issue, then there's nothing gonna really make us be able to mend anything. But if the understanding of the cheating and the forgiving of it is the real glue, the real McCoy, develop the ability to do that. I don't know if we will be able to. Looking about the ability, that would save a lot of heartaches and develop certain characteristics in us that's needed in this big 21st century. But again, if we don't do it, then our community is going to be dismantled as it is already. We don't know whether we're coming or going. But the thing is, start to develop attitudes and behavioral patterns that are different from the ones that we have. We have to upgrade the behavior patterns. We have to deal with the behavior patterns. We have to change the cultural behavioral pattern on every subject: marriage, love, war, all of these people activities. Unless we as a community begin to change and mold our children and our people into what's needed to make a harmonious society. I don't think that's going to happen right now, because right now I don't think the community is interested in these things right now. The development, capabilities of faculties in us. When have you ever heard anyone see life like that? No, but it's a thing that has to be futuristic. Well, that's fine. It means in the future then, because of our immortality, we will at some point develop these skills that are needed to see us through. And to make us into the people who we know we're supposed to be, and the people who we should be today. And where we should be ahead of the rest of them, because we're coming from such great upbringings and great authors and great philosophers and all of these ideologies that were once in the front of our being are now placed at the back. It's more about how much money we can earn, and where can we go. It's nothing wrong in having money. I said there's no value in money, but we exchange values through money. So if we can begin to value the development of our community, our selves, along the lines of the intelligence that runs the universe, runs your physiology, we can bring to the fore the life force, then we have made a transformation that's necessary right now. I do believe it's necessary right now to make that transformation according to our life force, our intelligence. We're not talking about no artificial intelligence. We're talking about some real intelligence here, to bring it to the forefront in our lives, to run our lives. Whenever are we going to have communities like that? And if we don't start now, by the willingness of the many to begin to create institutions, we stopped creating institutions a long time ago. We should be creating institutions daily for our people to go through. But alas, there's no enthusiasm to create the necessary institutions that's needed to see our people through. What will become of us in the next 10, 20 years as we are now, I don't know. As I said, we are probably the last of the Mohicans, the third generation of the Windrush. That's what we represent. So after this generation, I don't know where we're going to be. There's not much talk about things like this. There's not much willingness to create things like this anymore. And that means the Caucasoid would have won. If we put the last nails in the coffin of the black race, then we are contributing to our own incarceration and enslavement. But there is always hope. There's always hope that one day we may come around to this kind of thinking, and to know that we have to rebuild and put back the pieces together that's been mutilated and scattered throughout the earth, or so goes the myth. Usa was chopped up into 14 pieces and scattered throughout the earth, and Uset and Net Hebet went around and gathered the pieces. Do you understand the myth? Do you understand the myth? Is it the first and foremost thing in your life? Or is it going to be? Or what's left of it? Some of us are reaching a certain age now, and another 20 years, maybe we got another 20 years to live. What are we going to do with that 20 years that we got now? Now that we have arrived at this juncture, the next 20 years should be very important to us, especially the older ones who have arrived at this moment in time, are in their 70s now. What are we going to do in the next 20 years? Where are we going to be? What can we leave behind? What can we build together? So if we're of that age and we all come together, I'm sure we'll be able to create the institutions that our children are even having grandchildren themselves. But at least the grandchildren then will be able to go through the institutions that we create to take them away from the personalities, the Western personalities that are here right now. Relationships will be much better. We look at each other with much more respect. Instead of ending relationships, we'll be more or less building them by giving the ability to forgive. You know what I'm saying? Is there that ability in any of our relationships to forgive each other? I don't think so. But it's not done, and it's taboo. No. You hurt someone in the name of love because you don't want to hurt them, but you hurt them. So if that person knew that the ability is there for the person to forgive, and he can make his mistake, and he can look at his mistakes he's made, and he can, rehabilitate himself, that would be a great thing. So is there going to be any move towards this kind of thinking? I don't know. It can start in an individual. It can start in you. You start to know yourself, self-knowledge, gain self-knowledge, especially those who I said before are in the age of 70 and going over. You understand? Whose children are now in their 40s. But they've already grown up with their ideologies and their way of thinking. But for us who know better, at least you can prepare for your grandchildren to have that extra ability, to develop the ability. Start allowing them to gain ascendancy to their life force, their spirit. So, we've come to near the end of the show. I would like to say it's a privilege to be here today, and I hope that you'll have a great week, or strong, anything you want to call it, and you'll have all of your dreams come true, your ambitions met, and development like that. So, let me say, this is Heru